So I hope you're ready for today's loaded show because I've been waiting to record this thing all day long. It's an absolute doozy as we take a look at some dream trade targets that the Los Angeles Lakers can target this offseason. But first, I want to hear from you. Name me your dream trade target for the Lakers this offseason. Give me that name in the comment section right now, and let's start today's show. What's good? Welcome in. You're watching the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. Coming your way on today's show, we went into the think tank and we thought about some really juicy trade ideas involving dream Lakers trade targets who can make their way to the Los Angeles Lakers this offseason to bolster this roster and get them back to where we want them to be, competing for NBA championships. Now, the key word throughout today's show is dream. It's not a guarantee that these trades are going to come to fruition, that they're going to become a reality. Some more likelier than others, but each deal improves this roster, so you might as well make me, producer Sam Brown, the general manager of the Los Angeles Lakers, because what Rob Pelinka did last year, it clearly didn't work. So we begin with trade idea number one. Between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat. This is a really good trade in my opinion. You get to rid yourselves of all of the controversies around Anthony Davis with his inability to stay healthy. You trade him away to the Miami Heat as well as Kendrick Nunn, so Nunn reunites with Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, and the Heat culture, and coming back to Los Angeles, Bam Adebayo as an Anthony Davis replacement, and Duncan Robinson, who is barely playing throughout this playoff run for Miami and hasn't appeared in a game against the Philadelphia 76ers in the second round. Now, AD and Bam are definitely different players. AD more well-rounded offensively, even though Adebayo has done a great job of developing his offensive game, but both are elite defensively. And Miami right now has a title contention window that's wide open. So you look at Bam Adebayo and the stats the last 2 years, and we talk about the growth that's certainly taken place. It's taken place before our very eyes. Coming out of Kentucky, he was a raw product, but he's done such a great job of getting in the lab and really developing his all-around game, but especially offensively, where he's become a more fine-tuned product. Last 2 years, averages of nearly 19 points per game, almost 10 rebounds, 4.5 dimes. He's very good at generating steals and turnovers, and of course, he's a very good rim protector. As for Duncan Robinson, he landed that monster contract worth around $90 million, and now he's not even playing for the Miami Heat throughout their playoff run. It's been weird, but he's went cold from the floor, but the big component here is that Duncan Robinson, he's been awful defensively. So that's something of a concern for Miami and then Los Angeles if they were to acquire him. But there's no question that Duncan Robinson ain't afraid to shoot it, and he can be a very good shooter. He's shown us that over time. 4 years with the Miami Heat, he's connected on about 44% of his field goals, and from the three-point line, nearly 41%. So while AD might be the better player offensively for the Miami Heat, he might be able to help them compete for a championship right now in the immediacy of the moment, whereas Bam helps you compete right now for sure. He's the younger player, though, so you can continue to rebuild with him because the Lakers' future a little bit unknown given the age of LeBron James. Make sure you subscribe to the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. We are nearing yet another milestone here on the channel of 44,000 subscribers, 252 people away. We're trying to get to that mark by the end of the week. So hit that red subscribe button down below for the best and most consistent Lakers coverage here on YouTube. We have you covered all year round. We also love to chop it up with Laker Nation. Shout out to some recent subscribers: Damari Smith, Jeziel Correa Ortiz, hopefully I pronounced that right, NBA Highlights, Marquise Robertson, you've been asking for a shout out, here you go, Clayton Lockhart, Lerone Chance, Q Deuce, Jarrett Fontenot, and then some more subscribers as well: Edli, Yuan, Lyle Janer, Rick T, Patrick Bio. Thanks to all of you for subscribing to the channel. Either hit that red subscribe button down below, or even easier, let this video roll in a separate browser. Plug in the link at the bottom of your screen. It's youtube.com/LakersTV. Trade idea number two. It's a deal with the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are an upstart franchise in the NBA. given the great play this past year of Anthony Edwards, the former #1 pick, and his growth, Karl Anthony Towns, and a couple of other really good pieces on that roster. But a guy who could be on the outside looking in for the T-Wolves moving forward is D'Angelo Russell, who I've always kind of compared to a poor man's James Harden. And I like this trade for a couple of reasons. You get to send away Russell Westbrook and that astronomically high contract. You get back second-round picks in 2023 and 2025, and you also get Malik Beasley, who's a very good rotational player on a playoff team. If you offload Russ without giving up a first-rounder, that's a win for the Lakers. It's going to be a very tough time to trade away Russ without it really kind of negatively impacting your team, given that you might have to eat some of that salary. You might not get a good package back because of that salary and the player that Russ is right now. D'Lo, he really is a poor man's James Harden. He has that similar game where he tries to absorb contact. He's really crafty on the offensive side of the ball, is not a good defensive player, and can be somewhat spotty with his jump shot. But right now, he is a better player and better fit, in my opinion, on the Lakers than Russell Westbrook. Will the Lakers trade Russ this offseason? Is it time to go, and will he go? Your opportunity to be a part of the show, and let me know in the comment section. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. A few more trade ideas to get to. Trade idea number 3, the Hawks. So an interesting team here because they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago, and this year ousted in the first round. Wasn't really a competition with the Miami Heat, and they have somewhat of a flawed roster. We know they're going to move forward with Trae Young. How about everybody else? They could be on the table in a trade, and they are right here. Hawks receive THT, Talen Horton-Tucker, as well as Kendrick Nunn. Lakers get Kevin Huerter and a 2022 second-round pick. Huerter would aid the Lakers' shooting struggles because right now this team doesn't have a lot of really good shooters. And the ones that they did have last year are all old, and I don't think they should bring them back. Jeanie Buss not happy with this team right now. 11.5 points per game throughout his career since coming into the league. 43% shooter, 38% with volume from beyond the arc. Pretty solid numbers for Huerter. Trade idea number 4. It's an in-city trade between the Clippers and the Lakers, and the Lakers get Norman Powell, who the Clippers traded for last year. Pretty solid player who, up to this point, playing his best basketball of his career, in my opinion. The Clippers get Talen Horton-Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, and a 2023 second-round pick. As for Norman Powell, what did he do last year? 45 games played because he suffered an injury after he was dealt to the Clippers, and he was a very good scorer. Now, I think he might be better coming in off the bench in that role of an elite six-man, but he can certainly start for you as well. 19 points per game, 46% shooter, and his shooting stroke from downtown has continued to get better over time, especially the last 2 or 3 years. He's connecting on about 42% of his three-point attempts. Now, Powell was dealt to the Clippers at the deadline, averaged 21.5 points per game and 54% shooting in just 5 games played with the Clippers because of that broken foot. Before the injury and after the injury, there were certainly some flashes of him being a dynamic player. I think he could be a dynamic player for LA. Chatsports.com/Lakers. If you plug in that link, that'll take you to the best sports book in the entire world. And if you enter the promo code Lakers125, you get a 125% deposit bonus. No sports book has a better deal to offer than our friends at BetUS, today's presenting sponsor. NBA title odds. They have changed almost seemingly every single day, flip-flopping between the Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, the Boston Celtics have been up there. Teams like the Philadelphia 76ers no longer in the title odds picture right now, according to BetUS. If you want to get your bets in, hey, you take a look right here at the NBA title odds. Some intriguing value there. Chatsports.com/Lakers, promo code Lakers125. Trade idea number 5 between 2 rivals and a bad basketball team in the Sacramento Kings. THT, yet again, in another trade because maybe you find a way to offload that contract that he signed in NBA free agency last summer worth around 3 years, $30 million. And the Lakers get Richaun Holmes, whose value right now is a little bit diminished. So too is THT's. That's why this trade makes a great deal of sense. So 2 years ago, Richaun Holmes was really, really good. Best year that he's had of his life. And you look at the numbers here. 14 points per game, 8+ rebounds, a block and a half per night, connected on about 64% of his shots. This past year, as the minutes went down, so too did a lot of other categories. Field goal attempts, down. Points per game went down. Rebounds went down. Blocks went down. And that's a byproduct of Richaun Holmes not getting as much run. Now, Holmes is better, in my opinion, than he was last year. I think he's more so the player that he was 2 years ago. I just don't think that Richaun Holmes was in a great situation last year. And oftentimes when you play for the Sacramento Kings, you are not in an advantageous position. I think that Richaun Holmes could have the best brought out of him if he just played for a more functional franchise with some better players than what he had with Sacramento. You look at this roster right now and be the general manager, be a scout, and then relay your thoughts down below. What do the Lakers need more of? Is it shooting? Is it defense? If you want to say why for youth, you can do that as well. Either way, get those votes in. A bonus trade idea, because we always go above and beyond for all of Laker Nation and everybody who's subscribed to all of our channels here at Chat Sports. Deal between the Pistons and the Lakers. Yes, Detroit has Cade Cunningham and a couple of other really intriguing young players. Can they serve as a salary dump-off destination for Russell Westbrook? If that's the case, we'll also give them a 2027 first-round pick, which is lottery protected. On the way to LA, it's Jerami Grant, Kelly Olynyk, as well as Corey Joseph. Going into the NBA trade deadline, we talked about this ad nauseum, right? The Lakers had interest in Grant leading up to the NBA trade deadline. They didn't pull a trigger on the deal, and I think Detroit wanted to maintain its grasp of Jerami Grant, right? But Grant is entering the final year of his contract. He's going to want to get paid. That is a big factor in this trade discussion. Trade idea number 7. How about this one? Chicago Bulls and LA, and this is really the big splash trade idea. 2 bonus ones for you. 7 in total. The Bulls receive Russell Westbrook, a first-round pick in 2025, and second-round picks in 2023 and 2024. The Lakers get a very valuable asset, a player who's still young and one of the best bucket getters in the NBA, who I think could play excellent basketball alongside LeBron James and potentially Anthony Davis. With this trade idea, I understand we kept it in the chamber until the last one because it is a dream trade idea. The reality that it happens is somewhat low, but it is okay to dream big. After all, we're talking about Los Angeles. We're talking about LA. We're talking about Tinseltown. It is okay to have big aspirations in Los Angeles because if you move to LA, you have to have big aspirations if you have any dreams of making it in Hollywood. Zach LaVine would be able to make it in Hollywood, and in doing so would form a new big 3 with the purple and gold. LeBron James, 30 points per game last year. Zach LaVine, 24.5. Anthony Davis with 23+. And I actually think that Davis's numbers could improve a little bit with more open opportunities, especially from the three-point arc. I'd like to see him come into camp in better shape, and I'd like to see him avoid injuries for once. If that's the case, and if you can get a healthy AD like you did in the bubble season in 2020, look out for this big 3 to do some damage in the Western Conference. I want to hear from you once more before we hop on out of here. Get your Lakers trade ideas and your Lakers dream trade targets in the comments section. And as always, like the video, subscribe, and thank you so much for making today's show a part of your daily routine.